The South African government is reportedly making plans to sell off part or maybe all of its stake, at this point we don't know, in its telecommunications giant Telkom to rescue the country's loss-making carrier SAA. Now, the national carrier has been bleeding money for years. The government has repeatedly extended millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to bail it out. And now SAA apparently needs another $760 million to keep its aircraft afloat. Here's Sumitra Nydoo with more.
National carrier South African Airways has been a drag on the fiscus for years. Mismanagement and non-profitability have made it impossible to operate without government support. Earlier this week, it emerged in Parliament that the government is planning to sell its 39% stake in Telkom to help shore up SAA's balance sheet.
From a fiscal point of view, this is, in the short term, a positive development because it means that government will not be increasing its public debt in order to finance the bailout of SAA, and in so doing, the ratings agencies might see this as a positive development.
Several plans to turn the airline around in recent years have failed. In 2015, SAA was placed under the control of the Finance Ministry. Soon after, then Minister Nhlanhla Nene was fired. A year later, Pravin Gordhan was also removed. Since then, a new board and a new CEO have been appointed.
It's very difficult to tell whether the new CEO can turn SAA around. From what I gather, there are major structural problems facing SAA that need to be adjusted before it starts running profitably. For example, most importantly, the domestic routes are very popular and well run, but the international routes are losing a lot of money.
SAA has received several bailouts from government to prevent it from going bust. In 2016, it received government guarantees worth $350 million. Earlier this year, it received $180 million to avoid defaulting on its debt with Standard Chartered Bank.
SAA will not fly. It has no net value. They are really throwing a lot of money into a bottomless pit. My impression is that SAA needs many more bailouts in years to come to get it on a sound financial footing. Airline business is really cutthroat business, and this will be one of more bailouts.
The Treasury says the sale of Telkom shares is one of several options on the table. Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba is expected to provide a clearer plan for the airline's future in his medium-term budget speech in October. Sumitra Nydoo, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Right, then let's dig a little deeper into that story. Sumitra Nydoo joins us now from Johannesburg with more data on this. So, Sumitra, let's step back just a little bit here. The Treasury spokesperson says that selling a stake in Telkom is one of several options that are being considered. Do we have any idea what the other options are?
Well, we're not sure at this stage, Rama, and that's because the possible sale of the government's stake in Telkom emerged in Parliament yesterday in a secret cabinet document that was leaked to the opposition party. Now, selling of state assets has been under discussion for some time. Back in 2015, then Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene said that state assets would be sold off to help curb the deficit and settle off some of the government's debt. In the same year, the government sold off its 14% stake in Vodacom to help Eskom, another state-owned entity. In terms of possible options, it could be stakes in other entities apart from Telkom that could be sold off, but it's just not clear at this stage.
Indeed. But there's an interesting twist to this story, though, because on the 4th of August, the Finance Minister now, Malusi Gigaba, he ruled out selling part of the stake in Telkom in order to raise money for more bailouts, and he also ruled out privatizing SAA. But now that he's clearly made a 100% U-turn on selling a stake in Telkom, why not just privatize SAA? What's so hard about privatizing the carrier?
Oh, this has been a debate for many, many years, and the government has said on a number of occasions that privatizing SAA is not an option. It's a state carrier, it's a strategic asset, and it won't let it go. It's also not keen on part privatization, although this has also been a discussion of late. The same with Telkom. It's been trying to hold on to Telkom for years. It almost scuppered the deal with Vodafone a few years ago. And when South Korea's KTC made an offer, it was so close to sealing the deal, government called it off. So it does seem like the minister has been caught in a really tough position. The ANC doesn't want to sell off any of its big assets, but it needs the money to help keep its loss-making entities afloat. But it's also limited in where it can go to find the money. Economists believe selling of state assets is the way to go.
Indeed. I'm glad you brought up the South Korean telco, SK Telkom. So if, for argument's sake, the sale does go ahead with this government stake in Telkom, about 39% of the company, would they perhaps be interested in buying shares in Telkom again, or are we looking at another buy altogether?
Well, we did see some really keen interest from foreign buyers. As you said, KTC was one. Even at home, one of the big players in the mobile space would be interested. Telkom has really turned the corner. Its balance sheet is strong and it's become quite competitive with its turnaround strategy paying off. It's giving its competitors a hard time with new offerings, and it's, with its move away from fixed lines. But what's more attractive is that Telkom has the most infrastructure in the country. You must remember, it was the only telecoms provider in the country for decades before the likes of Vodacom and MTN entered the market. So it's a really attractive buy at this stage. And there would be quite a few buyers here at home and internationally that could be interested.
Indeed. So based on the prices earlier today, Telkom's market cap was over $2.5 billion. So if the share sale was to proceed, how much of that 39% stake would be up for sale?
Well, there again, because we don't have all the detail of what's in that secret document, we don't know what government wants to sell, whether it's the whole 39% or part of it. Now, SAA needs just under $1 billion right now. That entire stake would need to be sold off to get that amount. It would have a little bit extra there. But Telkom is a strong asset, about the only one working for government at the moment compared to almost all of its loss-making entities. It may look to sell a smaller stake and look at something else. It's also quite dangerous if, if the stake is taken to the market and sold on the open market. It could actually be very bad for the share price and they could lose. I think a better option here would rather look for a buyer or get somebody to manage the sale in parts. So we don't really know how much they want to sell, what's going to be up for sale, how this is all going to come up. We're hoping to get more clarification in the days to come, but I think we may have to wait for the medium-term budget speech in October, where the finance minister will give us more detail.